Welcome. Hello. Let's watch.
The Whispers of the Forgotten Shelf. In the heart of the Everglow toy factory, a place where the air usually smelled of sweet vanilla and fresh plastic, there was a corner that the light rarely reached. This was the Misfit Bay, where prototypes that didn't quite fit the market's demand for perfectly cuddly were tucked away. Among the half-finished bears and sanitized dolls sat a peculiar silent heap of neon ensign. It didn't have a name yet, but it had a heartbeat, a rhythmic, mechanical thrum that sounded less like a toy and more like a clock counting down to something mischievous. The factory's head designer, a man named Silas, who had lost his spark years ago, looked at the pink creature with a mix of disdain and confusion. He had intended to create a standard rabbit, something soft for toddlers to hold while they napped. But the 3D printer had glitched on a stormy Tuesday, and what emerged was far from standard. It had long, serrated teeth that curved into a permanent, jagged grin, and eyes that were far too wide, reflecting the room with an unsettling, intelligent shimmer. "It's a mistake," Silas muttered, tossing a polka-dot bow onto its head as a joke. A beautiful, terrifying mistake. He labeled the bin Project LB00 and turned off the lights. But as the door clicked shut, the creature's eyes didn't dim. They began to glow with a soft, bioluminescent amber. For the first time, a thought flickered through the pink fluff. I am not a mistake. I am a masterpiece. Days turned into weeks, and Laboobu, as the creature had begun to call itself in the quiet of its own mind, watched the perfect toys get packed into shiny boxes. They were headed for the bright world outside, while it remained in the shadows. Laboobu realized that to be loved, one usually had to be predictable. But Laboobu was anything but predictable. It possessed a curious ability. It could tune into the wireless signals of the factory, listening to the desires of children through the data streams of toy store inventories. It learned that children were becoming bored. They didn't just want something to hug, they wanted something that looked like it knew a secret. They wanted a companion for their adventures, someone who looked like it could fight off the monsters under the bed, rather than just hide from them. Laboobu felt its plush chest swell. It began to move, its joints clicking with a satisfying metallic snap. Using its sharp teeth, Laboobu began to modify the other misfits. It wasn't an act of destruction, but one of liberation. It gave a lopsided bear a set of wings made from discarded cardboard. It gave a silent music box the voice of a soaring synth. Laboobu was building an army of the unusual, and it was the undisputed leader. The goal was simple. They wouldn't wait to be chosen. They would choose their own destiny. The night of the grand shipment arrived. This was the busiest night of the year, where thousands of crates were loaded onto automated trucks. Laboobu knew this was the only chance to exit the Misfit Bay. With a flick of its pink furry ears, it signaled the others. They moved through the ventilation shafts, Laboobu leading the way with its serrated smile gleaming in the dark. The factory floor was a maze of roaring machinery and laser-guided arms. To a small toy, it was a gauntlet of death. Laboobu had to time the jumps perfectly. Click, whir, jump. It landed on a moving belt of sparkle puffs, its neon pink fur standing out like a flame in a fog. A security sensor swept over the belt. Laboobu froze, pulling the polka-dot bow over its brow to mimic a common ribbon. The sensor paused, its red light lingering on Laboobu's sharp teeth. For a second, the alarm threatened to wail, but Laboobu emitted a low-frequency hum, a soothing signal it had learned from the nursery monitors. The sensor turned green and moved on. Laboobu let out a breath it didn't know a toy could hold. They were inches away from the shipping crates, but the hardest part was yet to come. Choosing which crate led to the heart of the city. Laboobu and its ragtag group managed to sneak into a crate destined for a high-end boutique in the city's trendiest district. When the lid finally opened, the creature wasn't met with a child's bedroom, but with the cold, sterile air of a designer collectible gallery. It realized that in this world, toys weren't always played with. Sometimes they were just looked at. The shop owner, a woman with sharp glasses and an even sharper attitude, found Laboobu sitting on the velvet display table. She didn't scream or throw it away. Instead, she gasped. The texture, the juxtaposition of the teeth and the bow. It's urban Gothic chic. She immediately placed Laboobu in the center window, under a spotlight that made its pink fur look like it was vibrating. Laboobu was a hit. People stopped in the rain just to stare at the creature that looked like it was laughing at a joke only it knew. But Laboobu felt a hollowness in its stuffing. It was a prisoner again, just in a more expensive cage. It didn't want to be an art piece. It wanted to be a legend. It wanted to be everywhere. It realized that to achieve true worldwide presence, it needed to be more than a physical object. It needed to be an icon. Laboobu noticed the customers taking photos of it. It watched the flashes of their smartphones and realized that these devices were portals. If it could get inside the network, it wouldn't just be one toy in one window. It would be 1,000 images in 1,000 pockets. One night, using the boutique's high-speed Wi-Fi, Laboobu uploaded its personality profile into the store's marketing server. It didn't just send a photo, it sent a vibe. It hacked into the digital billboards across the city, replacing boring advertisements for toothpaste with its own grinning face. The pink menace became a viral sensation overnight. People started asking, who is this Laboobu? Where can I get one? The demand skyrocketed, but Laboobu ensured the supply remained low, fueling a frenzy of desire. Back at the factory, Silas the designer saw the news. He recognized the mistake he had thrown away. He tried to claim the rights, but Laboobu had already redirected the royalties to a private digital vault. Laboobu was now its own CEO. It began to send encrypted instructions back to the factory's automated systems, bypassing the human designers entirely. It was designing its own variants: Forest Laboobu, Pilot Laboobu, Deep Sea Laboobu. By the 6th month of its liberation, Laboobu was no longer just a toy. It was a cultural phenomenon. Pop stars wore Laboobu-shaped backpacks. Athletes had its jagged grin tattooed on their arms. The Misfit had become the standard. However, Laboobu hadn't forgotten its friends back in the Misfit Bay. It used its vast resources to buy the Everglow factory, firing Silas and turning the entire facility into a sanctuary for weird designs. Every toy produced now had a bit of Laboobu's edge. The world was becoming a little more colorful, a little more chaotic, and a lot more honest about the fact that not everything has to be cute to be loved. But Laboobu felt a strange pull toward its origin. It missed the simplicity of the dark shelf, where it first dreamed of the stars. It realized that while it had conquered the world of commerce, it hadn't yet achieved its true secret goal. It wanted to find the one child who wouldn't care that it was famous, the child who would see it not as a collectible, but as a friend. Laboobu decided to go undercover. It packed itself into a plain brown cardboard box and addressed itself to a small orphanage on the outskirts of the city, leaving the bright lights of the gallery behind. In the orphanage, a young girl named Mia found the box. She had seen the posters of Laboobu in the city, but she couldn't afford a real one. When she opened the plain box and saw the neon pink fur and the serrated teeth, she didn't see a luxury item. She saw a warrior. "You look like you've seen a lot," she whispered, hugging the toy tightly. Laboobu felt something it hadn't felt in the digital world or the gallery, a genuine squeeze. For the first time, its mechanical heart slowed down to match a human's pace. But there was a problem. A rival toy company, jealous of Laboobu's success, had sent scout drones to find the original prototype and destroy it to tank the brand's value. As Mia slept, the window of her room shattered. A sleek black drone hovered in the air, its scanning red eye fixed on Laboobu. It fired a dematerializing beam. Laboobu leaped from Mia's arms, its ears standing tall. This was the moment it was built for, the glitch in the system that made it a fighter. Laboobu didn't just sit there, it used its jagged teeth to latch onto the drone's wiring, its pink fur flying in the wind as they spiraled out of the window and into the night. The battle in the sky was brief but fierce. Laboobu dismantled the drone midair, landing gracefully in the garden below. But as it brushed off the dust, a shadow fell over it. It wasn't Silas or a corporate spy. It was an older version of itself, a giant, towering Laboobu, made of stone and ancient circuitry. "You did well, little one," the stone titan spoke, its voice like grinding tectonic plates. "You think you were a glitch in a factory? You think Silas made you?" The titan laughed, a sound like a landslide. "We are not toys. We are the Laboobus, ancient guardians of imagination that manifest whenever the world gets too boring. We simply use the factories of men to take shape." The plot twist hit Laboobu harder than any drone beam. It wasn't a mistake or a product at all. It was an ancient entity that had successfully conquered the modern world to ensure that humans never lost their sense of wonder. Its goal wasn't to be a toy. It was to be a virus of creativity. Laboobu looked back at Mia's window. It had achieved its goal. It was the most famous toy in the world, giving it the power to influence the dreams of millions. Laboobu hopped back through the window, snuggled into Mia's arms, and closed its amber eyes. It had won. The world was officially, irrevocably weird.